Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Time Online Classes. This is basically a part of the mock test discussion that you had taken a couple of days ago. So the code for that mock test was AIMT2502301, as you can see out here. And the section we're going to be talking about right now in this video is the English language section, the verbal part of it, which was part number D. So how we'll be going about this is there are around 25 questions, 76 to 100. So in each section, each question I'll give you the answer. I'll tell you what could have been the way to go about it to arrive at the answer. If required, share a couple of concepts, etc. with you based on that. So at any point of time, if you want to think over what has been discussed, or say you want to first try the question and then see what the answer could be, you could pause the video for a minute, try it, and then play it and see what we are discussing. So that's how we would be going ahead. Let's see how it goes. Without any further ado, let's start off with the questions. So question number 76, select the most appropriate option to fill in the blank. So the question is, dash the growth of an organization needs a lot of planning. So there is the growth of the organization. For that, you need to do a lot of planning. So if I say keeping the growth of the organization, but keeping is to hold something, to keep it, to have its ownership with you. This is not something physical. So one gets eliminated. Aligning the growth of an organization. Now to align is to fit in the direction. For example, I say my thought process is aligned with that of yours, or my inclination is towards finance as a subject, or I'm aligned towards banking as a career, etc. But then when I say aligning the growth of an organization, it has to be with something. So aligning the growth of an organization with that of the employees, or aligning the growth of an organization with that of the economy. So something like that were given, aligning would have fit. But over here, we have not been told with what it is being aligned. So for that reason, I can eliminate option number 2. Viewing the growth of an organization. Now to see whether an organization is growing or not, you don't need a lot of planning. For that, just the balance sheet or the P&L account, or say the annual report would be enough. You don't need to actually plan to see or view the growth of an organization. So 3 gets eliminated. Now to sustain is to maintain. For example, when I say I need to sustain my performance over a period of time, so I need to maintain the level of performance that I am having. Or to sustain relationships, one needs to do a lot of efforts. So to maintain relationships, one needs to do a lot of efforts. So similarly, if we have to sustain or maintain the growth of an organization, one needs a lot of planning to do that. So definitely option number 4. So this was a straightforward one. The words were also pretty easy. So it's quite simple to eliminate the options and get the right answer. In general, in fill in the blanks, you can read the sentence, figure out what would be the tone of the option that you require in the blank. So will it be a positive option? Would it be a negative option? Would it be a neutral option? So once you figure out the tone, generally out of 4, at least 2 options can be eliminated. Then when I'm left with 2 more, the exact meaning of the word. And like we just saw right now, the words that come after and before the blank can also help us to take a call. So if you have something like align, you need a with or a to along with it, which has not been given out here. So based on that, I could eliminate option number 2. So using these small techniques, fill in the blanks can be very easily solved. But yes, one thing that's mandatory in a fill in the blank question is one needs to know the meaning of the options. If one doesn't know that, then one would be in a difficult position. Anyway, out here, option number 4 would be the right answer. Then let's move on to the next question. Now, this is a one-word substitute question. So he has given me the meaning in the question. He has given me 4 possible words. I have to see which one can substitute the meaning out there. So imitative of a style or fashion from the recent past. So I need a word that means that it's an imitation of a certain style or a certain fashion that was going on a couple of years ago. So let's take a look at it. Retro. Now, as we know, retro means something that was there in the past and is still being used. So when I say retro fashion, I mean fashion of the past. If I say retro music, so music that was relevant a couple of years ago that people are still listening. So retro is anything that was in vogue or fashion some years ago and is still being followed today. So that can definitely be a possible answer. When something recurs, it just means that it's occurring again. But here I'm not talking about a simple occurrence or a reoccurrence. I'm talking about an imitation of a past event. So by that logic, 2 gets eliminated because I'm not talking about a simple reoccurrence out here. Recap is remembering something that happened. So like when you watch a serial, the previous episode, there's a recap at the start. Or when you watch a movie, that's a sequel. At the start, they give you a recap of what happened in the previous movie. But then again, that's a specific retelling of a past event. Whereas here I'm talking about an imitation of a style or a fashion from the past. So recap gets eliminated. And rebut is something totally different. To rebut someone is to prove someone to be wrong. So say, for example, someone said that the sun rises in the west and sets in the east. So I prove that person wrong by saying that no, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And for that reason, I provide him with data like in the eastern part of the world, the sun rises the earliest. In the western part, it happens later on. Or say I take a look at how the shadows lengthen and shorten over the period of the day. So with that, I prove that person to be wrong. That's a rebuttal or the process of rebutting someone. That's totally different as compared to the meaning that is given to us in the question. So the answer would definitely be option number 1. Retro, an imitation of a style or a fashion from the recent past. Now here as well, even if you didn't know the meaning of the word rebut, which was a slightly tricky word, the word retro was definitely easier. So with that, one could very comfortably get the answer. All right. Guys, like I said earlier as well, at any point of time, if you want to first try the question and then hear the answer, or you want to think over what we just discussed, you can definitely pause this video for a sec, think over it or try solving the question and then play it and see whether you got it right or wrong. Talk in a rapid, excited and often incomprehensible manner. Now to gibber or to gibber is to talk in a sarcastic way. I'm sure you've heard of the term sarcasm before. Sarcasm is basically when I'm indirectly taunting someone. So I'm trying to insult someone, but I don't do it directly. I do it in a very indirect way. So, it very often happens that suppose you were sleeping on your bed the whole day without doing anything. Your mom came and said, "Oh, you must be so tired of working so much today," in a very straight face. That's again a sarcasm because instead of directly telling you that you are lazy, she's doing it in a very indirect way. So that is gibbering or gibbering. But in the question, I'm talking about talking in a very rapid or excited and an incomprehensible way. So when I talk so fast that the person in front of me cannot understand. So one is definitely eliminated. Being sober is being calm. So a sober person is someone who's very calm, who's very serious, but such a person would be the opposite of what we are talking about in the question. So 2 gets eliminated. Now to jabber is to talk in a very fast and incomprehensible manner. So that is what we're talking about in the question. So when I say someone is jabbering away to glory, that means the person is talking very quickly and in a very difficult way, in such a way that you cannot understand what he is talking about. So to jabber would be the right answer. Amber is basically yellow color. So if you've seen a tiger's eyes in pictures, of course, you can't really see a tiger because if you do that in close quarters, you may not live to tell the tale. But then when you see a tiger in a zoo or when you see a pig, its eyes are a yellowish green in color, or you can say greenish yellow. That color is what we call amber. So that's anyway out of question. So here the answer is option number 3. To jabber is to talk in a rapid, excited, and in an incomprehensible manner. Incomprehensible is something that cannot be understood, that cannot be comprehended or cannot be understood. Now, when we talk about word meanings in your classes, we often talk about root words. To remember the words via roots, prefixes, suffixes. But in English, every word unfortunately does not have a root. Some words need to be remembered directly. The root method can be used to remember 70 to 80% or sometimes 90% words also. So for those, root words become very easy. But for the remaining words, you need to remember them. One good way to remember them would be to use them in sentences. So, and one good way for that is link the word with a very strong image. So a person from real life whom you know, or say a personality, a film personality, or a sports personality, or a politician, economist, someone whom you admire a lot, and you can link that person with this quality, then you can create a sentence around that. For example, if you watch the News Hour with Arnab Goswami, he is a very good anchor, there's no doubt about it, but he can talk in a very rapid and excited manner, especially when he gets a little too carried away with what he's talking about. In that case, it gets a little incomprehensible. So you can say sometimes Arnab does jabber when he's talking in his news, in his program or in the News Hour. So with this, that word can be connected. So definitely option number 3. Then let's move on. Now, active passive voice. This is a question type that's seen very commonly in our exam. They may give us a sentence in the active voice, ask us to convert it to passive, or they may give the sentence in the passive voice, ask us to convert it to active. So before we solve this, we'll just take a quick look at what active passive voice is all about. So what is active voice? When the subject does something to the object, or the subject performs an action on the object. So for example, when I say I teach students, I is the subject, students are the object, and teaching is the action. So I teach students, that's in the active voice. What is passive voice? When something is done on the object by the subject. So the meaning remains the same, just the focus has changed. So I teach students, that was in the active voice. Its passive conversion would be students are taught by me. The remaining remains the same, just that the focus changes from the subject to the object. So it's active to passive voice conversion. Now this is very simple. The only thing you have to keep in mind over here is the tense must remain the same. Because very often people confuse active passive voice with direct indirect speech. In direct indirect speech, the tense changes, but not in active passive voice. So the sentence is in simple present, even in after the conversion, it should remain in simple present. Or if it were in past perfect, it should remain past perfect after the conversion also. So that's the main thing you have to keep in mind in active passive voice conversion. The tense must remain the same. The other things you're able to more or less work it out. Just keep this one point in mind. So keeping that in mind, let's now go back to the question. I have informed the landlord. So I here is the subject. Landlord becomes the object. Have informed is the action. And if I check out the tense is in present perfect. As we know, we have auxiliaries used for the perfect tenses, have, had, will have, etc. And have being the present tense, it's an example of present perfect. So let's see which option retains the same tense. The landlord has been informed by me. The landlord is the object, me is the subject. I got converted to me, and has been continues to be in present perfect. So I think option number 1 would be the answer because the tense remains the same. But let's quickly check the other options also. Let's keep one on hold. The landlord was informed by me, but here the tense has now become simple past. So that gets eliminated. The landlord had been informed. This is completely grammatically wrong also. So 3 gets eliminated. The landlord is informed by me. This is in simple present. but I need present perfect. So only option number 1 has the tense correctly. That becomes my answer. I have informed the landlord has been informed by me. Option number 1. So active passive voice is very straightforward. Just keep in mind that the tense must remain the same. As long as you can ensure that, everything else here becomes very straightforward. All right. Then let's go on to the next question. Now this is an example of para jumbles. And luckily in these exams, para jumbles come with options. So the best way to go about it is first read those lines, then seeing the option, which are the options, which are the lines that have been used as a straight line. So we can see which of those can be the first line as per the question. If only one option has that, that directly becomes the answer. If more than one has that, at least the others can be eliminated. And I've brought down the options from 4 to 2. Then in those two options, I can see which one would be the right answer. So if I check out here in option number 1, the first line is D. Option number 2, it is C. Option number 3, it is A. Option number 4, it is B. So I have to check each. Now let's read the lines together. A says, and most sources on the World Wide Web have been built without the standardized attributions that scaffold other forms of knowledge dissemination. They are therefore seen as degraded even as they illuminate. So what this is saying is there are some standardized ways in which knowledge spreading should happen. The sources on the internet do not follow those standards. Therefore, they are degraded or brought down even though they provide knowledge. Now, the thing here is I've started with and as we know, a para cannot start with and. So A cannot be my first line. 3 gets eliminated. So we are advised to check our sources carefully. So because of some reason, we are asked to check our sources carefully. Now, as we know, a para also cannot start with so because so indicates an effect. So the cause has to come before that. So option 4 also gets eliminated. There is so much talk of fake news that the term has entirely lost meaning. Okay, this could be a possible first line. Information has never been more accessible or reliable, less reliable. This can also be my first line. So I'm left with 1, I'm left with 2. Now, in parajumbles, I always start with the most general point, then I go towards the more specific point. All right, as much as possible, the flow is from a general point to a specific point. So if I check option number C, it's talking about fake news. So it's talking about how news is manipulated. Whereas option number, line number D talks about information in general. So between C and D, as D is more general, I'll first give it first preference. So let us start with D and see which how the order would be. That's in option number 1. So information has never been more accessible or less reliable. Okay. So we are asked to check our sources carefully. So because information has never been more accessible yet less reliable, we are asked to check our sources carefully. So DB becomes a proper group. Now, I'm talking only about information in general. Then I come to C. There's so much talk of fake news that the term has entirely lost meaning. And most sources on the World Wide Web have been built without the standard attributions. They are therefore seen as degraded even as they illuminate. So option 1 does seem to have a proper order, but I start with saying information is very accessible yet unreliable. We are asked to check our sources carefully. Fake news has been discussed a lot, and most of the sources have lost their meaning and they are seen as degraded. So DBCA does seem to be a proper order. Let's one check CBDA also. There's so much talk of fake news that the term has lost the meaning. So we are asked to check our sources carefully. Information has never been more accessible or less reliable, but now I'm flowing from a specific idea of fake news to a general point of information. And that is not allowed. I flow from general to specific and not specific to general. And also DB forms a group as we just saw, and CA forms the group as we just saw. I cannot break those groups. So my answer has to be option number 1. DBCA, where I flow from a most general idea and then I go towards a more specific idea. I hope this is clear, guys, how we worked it out. So in these questions where I have options, it's very straightforward. Check which is the first line as per the options. Then see which one in the question would be the first line. So at least a couple of options get eliminated. And then based on the remaining options that are there, I can try to select my order. Of course, if I have some pronouns, they also help me, because if I have a pronoun in a line, I say which noun it can be connected to. So those two always come together. If there's a cause effect group, that can also come together. As in out here, DB was a cause effect group, CA was the other group. So those two were always coming together. So based on these, once I create those groups, making the order then becomes really easy. So DBCA, option number 1 becomes the answer. All right. Then let's move on to question number 81, which is an idiom based question. So an idiom has been given. I have to see which option captures its meaning. Idioms are a very common question type in our exams, and they are very helpful also. They're very easy to remember as well. You've been given a list of idioms in your study material, so just go through them. Now, some idioms are self-explanatory. They can be remembered directly, but some idioms can get a little tricky because their meaning isn't exactly the same as what is conveyed in the questions, as they have an implied meaning. So those idioms you can make a special note of in an Excel sheet or a Word document and go through them a couple of times. That will help you to remember them. Grouping such idioms can help also. So for example, there are some idioms based on color. They can be grouped together. Some idioms based on animals. They can be grouped together. Some idioms that are based on Greek mythology. They can be grouped together. So once you create those kind of groups, then remembering them becomes much easier for us. Let's check out the question. To gain ground. Now, to buy land, but directly land and ground cannot be equated. So one gets eliminated. To get land without spending money, again, that cannot be the direct answer. To make progress. Now, when I say I'm gaining ground, that actually means I am in a better position today than what I was yesterday. So to gain ground is equivalent to making progress. So for example, if I say I started preparing for the exam around 2 months ago, and now I have gained a lot of ground. So I've made a lot of progress. So definitely option number 3. To get proof of something, no, that's not equivalent to gaining ground, because that would be more in the sense of to gain an advantage over someone, or to get a reason as to why something happened. That would be a better equivalent for to get proof. To gain ground is to make progress. So option number 3. Now this was an example where I could straight find the meaning. In some cases that may not be possible, but then like we discussed, you can make a note of them and try to go through them. That makes our job a little easier. So definitely option number 3. All right. Then if I come to the 82nd question, inexorable. Now I have to find the appropriate antonym or the opposite of that word. The word inexorable basically means unstoppable. All right, inexorable is unstoppable. So I have to see an option that talks about some kind of stopping or some kind of blocking. So let's check which option could be a possible answer. Relentless. But relentless means the same, because to relent is to stop. So relentless again means unstoppable. All right. To relent is to stop. So when I say relentless, it's the same as unstoppable. So option number 1 therefore gets eliminated. To vacillant person. Now to vacillate is to be unsure about something. So vacillant person is someone who's not sure about what he's saying. So an unstoppable person generally is someone who's very sure about what he's doing. So because that person is sure, he is unstoppable. He knows exactly what he wants to do. So by that logic, vacillant could be a possible answer. Let's check the other options also. Incessant again is unstoppable because to cease is to stop. So 3 gets eliminated. And inevitable is also unstoppable, something that is going to happen even if I try my best to stop it. To evade is to stop or to avoid, in is not. So when I combine these two words together, I get the word inevitable. So inevitable again is similar to unstoppable. So my answer is definitely option number 2. To vacillate is to not be sure. Okay, guys. So option number 2 becomes the right answer. Now, this was a case where I needed to know the meanings of the words. A bit of etymology, of course, would also help me out here. But yeah. So option number 2 becomes the right answer. I hope this is clear, guys. Let's then move on. 83. I have to find the word that is not correctly spelled. Now, when it comes to spelling errors, many times if the word is a bit common, I can directly find my answer. If not, even root words help us to take a call. So fidelity, even if I don't know the word fidelity, I may definitely know the word infidelity, which is not being faithful in a marital relation. The spelling is infidelity. That is infidelity. Now, in, of course, is not. Fidelity is loyalty. So even if I remove the in, the spelling of fidelity is fidelity. Fidelity. So fidelity is correctly spelled. Interpret. Now, the actual word is intrepid, which means being very brave. So how do I spell the word intrepid? It comes as a combination of two words, in, which is not, and trepidation, which is fear. All right. So in is not, and the word trepidation, which means fear or being scared, that can be spelled as trepid, then ation. Trepidation is fear. So in plus trepidation is what gives me the word intrepid. Trepidation is fear. So intrepid, which is brave or fearless, is combined by these two words. So if you see the spelling out here, over here we used a TRE, but here we have a ER. So there's definitely a spelling error. It should have been RE and not ER. The right spelling for intrepid is INTREPID, which is fearless. So definitely my answer is option number 2. Now suppose I did not know the I didn't know the spelling of this word. But then the good thing out here is if I take a look at the other words, accountability, to keep an account of something. So account plus ability. And as you know, the spelling of account is ACCOUNT and ability is ABILITY. So definitely this spelling is right. And cowardice is covered plus ICE. So again, this spelling is correct. So over here, luckily the other words were comparatively straightforward. So even if I did not know the correct meaning of the word, the spelling of the word intrepid, I could still do elimination of options and come up with the right answer. So definitely option number 2 is the correct answer. Just give me a minute, guys. All right. So intrepid would be the right answer. And therefore, like I said, in a lot of cases for spelling errors, directly I'll know the answer. If not, how to split the word. If I know that, it becomes a little easier. So for some commonly misspelled words, if you see on your home page, a list has been provided. If you're a time student, you would be having that list on the home page. So you can refer to it out there. That will help you to do these questions easily. Okay. Then 84th, again, he has given me the meaning of he has given me an idiom and I have to see its meaning. Circle the wagons. So if I look at option number 1, to go around a group of wagons, that literally seems to be the right answer. But then if I think about it, an idiom is a group of words that conveys a meaning. More often than not, an implied meaning. So if I have to literally say to go around a group of wagons, then why would I say circle the wagons? Then it's just three words put together. It cannot be an idiom. So one gets eliminated. To keep the wagon in the form of a circle. Again, that's a literal meaning. And if I needed that, then I wouldn't call this an idiom. So two also gets eliminated. To attack someone in the form of a circle of wagons. Again, how can I attack someone by forming a circle of wagons? That doesn't make sense. So three gets eliminated. I'm left with option number 4, to unite to defend a common interest. Now in the exam, suppose I do not know the meaning, I may not be willing to take a risk because I don't want to lose a mark. But then, like I said, for indirect idioms, if you make a list of them and read up on their origins, that helps a lot. So how did this idiom originate? Now, in America, in the ancient, a couple of years ago, in the 1800s, when travelers were traveling from one part of the country to the others, when they were going through forests, they often had fear of being attacked by animals, by dacoits, etc. So at that time, what they used to do was the men and the people who were capable of fighting, they would keep all the wagons together and they would form a protective circle around it so that from all the sides the wagons were protected. And then if any animals or any dacoits would attack, the circle of people would fight and keep the wagons safe. So therefore, when I say I'm circling the wagons, I mean we are uniting to defend a common interest, which in this case literally meant the wagons, but in an indirect way, it can mean any common interest. If you unite to defend it, you're basically circling the wagons. So now say, for example, there is a team, there is a team of players and the team was basically divided because there was a lot of problems. But then they have a match to play. So the captain would tell them, we need to circle the wagons to be able to defeat this enemy team. We need to get together because our common interest is defeating the enemy team. So definitely option number 4. All right, so for some of these idioms that have an implied meaning, it may help to read up the origin story so that you are clear with it. Option number 4. Good. Now let's move on to the 85th question. This is an example of error spotting. He has given me a sentence divided into 4 parts. Each of them is mentioned in the option. I have to mark the option that has an error. So the first thing I have to do out here is read the sentence, understand the meaning, and then see which option is appropriate or inappropriate. So let's try that. The one major problem with the narrative, however, is an occasionally fewer than searching approach to humanizing the other major characters of the time. Okay, so there is an author or someone, he has given a narrative. So what the person here is saying is there's a major problem in our narrative. That is now in any good book, if you humanize the characters, it helps to understand their motivations. Because that's what great literature is all about. By understanding the people of a time, I understand myself and the people in my time today. That's the proof of any great book or any form of literature. So what the person here is saying is, this author is not trying to humanize the other major characters, and that is a major problem with her narrative. And that comes via part number 2, that is an occasionally fewer than searching approach to humanizing the other major characters. So because through her approach, she's not humanizing the other major characters, there is a problem. So let's check each part now. The one major approach with the major problem with the narrative, okay, seems to be all right. However, is an occasionally fewer than searching approach. Now this fewer than searching is used to modify the word approach. Now approach is countable or uncountable. Approach is a method. So when I say searching approach, it is definitely an uncountable noun, because more than a countable method over here, it's talking about a thought process. And thought process, as we know, is always uncountable. So now, what is the difference between few? Like, is fewer appropriate over here? We say there are fewer students today than there were yesterday. Why? Because few and fewer is normally used with countable nouns. So fewer can be used with students, it can be used with anything that can be counted. Can we say there are less students present today? No, I'll say there are fewer students present today. Why? Because fewer is countable, and the uncountable equivalent of fewer is a very interesting word called less. All right. Less is normally used with uncountable nouns. So I'll say there are fewer students present today than yesterday. I have less patients today than what I had a couple of years ago. So fewer comes with countable, less comes with uncountable. One easy way to remember them is, now both of these are in the comparative form. Whereas what is their positive form? For fewer, it is few, and for little less is less. So now if I check, I know that few definitely comes with countable nouns and little comes with uncountable nouns. So definitely by default, the comparative form of few, which is fewer, therefore should also come with countable, and the comparative form of little, which is less, should come with uncountable. So even if I do not remember the comparative form, by the positive form, I can remember the comparative one. So the mistake therefore over here is, because approach is uncountable, I can't use fewer, I need to use less. So the correct form of this sentence should have been, the one major problem with the narrative, however, is an occasionally less than searching approach to humanizing the other major characters of the time. So definitely point number 2 has an error in it. All right. So first read the sentence, figure out what it's trying to say, then look at each part separately. Especially when you have an adjective, check whether it is properly modifying the noun. So the noun is countable, am I using an adjective of number? If the noun is uncountable, am I using an adjective of quantity? Checking that automatically helps. And more often than not, fewer and less, when they come, do ensure that they are being used properly. Because while we normally don't make a mistake with few and little, we do make a mistake with fewer and less. So if you're seeing fewer in the question or less in the question, immediately check whether they are modifying the appropriate noun or not. And if not, I can change it immediately. So my answer is option number 2. Okay, then let's move on to question number 86. Again, now this is the passive form. I have to convert it to active. He was being tutored in the afternoon by Philip, sir. So now, as we remember, as we saw a little while earlier also, in active to passive or passive to active conversion, the main thing I have to keep in mind is the tense should remain the same. So over here, the sentence is in passive voice. So he is the object, tutoring is the action, and Philip sir is the subject. And when I say he was being tutored, the tense over here is past continuous. So what I need to, because generally being indicates continuous and being indicates continuous and being indicates the perfect tense. All right. So being generally indicates the continuous tense, B-E-I-N-G, whereas being, B-E-E-N, indicates the perfect tense in the passive form. So over here, because he has given me being and I also have was, that means my tense definitely is past continuous. So now I need to see which option has the same tense as that. So he was tutoring Philip, sir, but now here the meaning has changed because he is not the subject. Philip, sir, is the subject who is tutoring him. Here the entire meaning has been reversed. So in option 1, while the tense remains the same, the meaning unfortunately has been reversed. So 1 gets eliminated. His tutoring was by Philip, sir, in the afternoon, but this is again in passive voice. So 2 gets eliminated. In the afternoon, Philip sir was being tutored by him. But this is similar to option number 1. In the question, I have to say that Philip sir was tutoring him. Whereas here I am saying Philip sir was being tutored. So the guy, he is the main person who's tutoring Philip sir. So 3 again gets eliminated. 4 says Philip sir was tutoring him in the afternoon. So the tense is the same, simple, past continuous. Philip sir is the subject and him is the object. So that part is being correctly maintained. So Philip sir was tutoring him in the afternoon. Option number 4 becomes the right answer. I hope this is fine, guys. What you need to ensure is the meaning remains the same and the tense remains the same. As long as that is happening, then I can easily convert from active to passive or passive to active. So Philip sir was tutoring him in the afternoon. He was being tutored in the afternoon by Philip sir. Option number 4. Good. Then let's move on. Again, now he has given me a sentence divided into 4 parts. I have to mark the part that has an error. And so here I have only 3 parts in the question. And the sentence is right, I have to mark no error as my answer. Now in the previous question, I didn't have a no error option. Here I have it. So is no error a good thing or a bad thing? Technically, it introduces more confusion. Because when I do not have a no error option, what I can be sure about is definitely there is an error. But when I have no error, I also have to think in terms of the fact that the sentence could be correct. So that brings in a little bit of doubt in my mind. Anyway, let's try approach this with an open mind and see how it goes. Stories abound in farmers spending their life savings or taking loans to drill a bore well but failing to find water. So there are a lot of stories that talk about farmers who spend their entire money or take a loan to create or drill a bore well, but they're not able to find water. That seems to be the basic sentence. Stories abound in farmers spending. Now, what does this abound mean? Filled. There are a lot of stories about this. So now, do I say stories abound in? No, because then in that case, what it means is the stories are locations, and that locations we have farmers. But I want to say they are present in these stories, not that it's their location. So I can't say stories abound in. I'll say stories abound with. All right. So stories are filled with farmers, or stories abound with farmers. That could be one way, or the other way could be these are stories of farmers. So instead of in, I could also use the preposition of. All right. So the problem here is the preposition in. I'll say stories abound with farmers spending their life savings, which means stories are filled with farmers spending their life savings. Or I could say stories abound of farmers, or stories are of farmers spending their life savings or taking loans. So definitely part number 1 has an error in it. So this is basically what we call a phrasal verb: abound with something, abound of something. Option number 1. All right. Let's then move on to question number 88. Now he has given me a word. He has given me 4 possible options. I have to see which option is a synonym. Now the word is stubborn. Who's a stubborn person? Someone who's unwilling to change. So a person who's very fixed that this is what I'll do, this is how I'll do it. He's not willing to listen to other people, not willing to change even when the person gives him a proper reason. Still, this person is not willing to change or willing to understand. Such a person is called a stubborn person. Someone who's unwilling to listen or someone who's unwilling to change. So keeping that in mind, let's check the option acerbate. Just give me a minute. Yeah. Okay, now acerbic, the root word acer basically means sharp. So to acerbate is to very strongly say something, or to say something in a very sharp manner, or when the situation worsens or becomes even sharper than what it is right now. So to acerbate is to worsen or to further spoil a given situation. So that is not equivalent to stubborn. So that bit gets eliminated. To abrogate is to give up, to leave something in favor of someone. To abrogate is to give up. So that again cannot be my answer out here because my question was stubborn. That would be the opposite. So abrogate gets eliminated. Obstinate. Now, the word obstinate is very common, and I know it's the same as stubborn, not willing to change. So obstinate could be a possible answer. And to adulate someone is to worship that person, to worship them so much that they almost feel like they are gods. For example, in our country, in India, generally film stars or cricketers are worshipped so much by their fans. There's almost a kind of adulation. We worship them a lot. We keep them on a pedestal. So that's again not really similar to stubborn. So that gets eliminated. My answer is option number 3. Now again over here, thankfully, even if I didn't know the meanings of the remaining words, the word obstinate was a very straightforward one. So even without knowing the meanings of the remaining words, I can mark this as my answer. All right. Now let's move on. He has given me a sentence. A part of it is underlined. I have to see which option can replace this underlined part. This is an example of what I call phrase replacement. And if the sentence is right, I can mark option number 4. No substitution required. So let's check the sentence. The information given by his friend disturbed his peace of mind as well as bring a gloom in the house. Okay. So his friend gave him some information. Due to that, his peace of mind was disturbed. It also created a sense of gloom or sadness in the house. Now, as well as does a similar job to and technically. And as we know in and as well as generally, we join similar tense sentences together. So if the first part has a certain tense, the second part should also have a similar tense. So over here, if we see, disturbed is in simple past. But if I take a look at the underlined part, there I have mentioned bring. And bring is in simple present. So definitely, therefore, my question is wrong. Because if I'm mentioning disturbed, I should technically mention bought, brought, something like that. I need a word in the past tense and not in the present tense. So definitely the question is wrong. So automatically option number 4 gets eliminated because I need a change. 4 gets eliminated. Let's check option number 1. The information given by his friend disturbed his peace of mind as well as has brought a gloom. But while brought is correct, the has creates a problem because now this is in present perfect, but I need simple past. So as this part is in present perfect, that also gets eliminated. So 1 is out. Let's check the second question now. Second option, sorry. The information given by his friend disturbed his peace of mind as well as brought gloom into the house. Now brought, as we saw earlier, is in the past tense. The tense over here gets maintained. So option number 2 could be a possible answer. Let's check the third one as well as brings, but this is again in present tense. And I need past tense as we just saw. So option number 3 also gets eliminated. Hence my answer definitely is option number 2. All right. So the information given by his friend disturbed his peace of mind as well as brought gloom into the house. So definitely option number 2 becomes the right answer. I hope this is clear, guys, how we worked it out. So whenever I have and as well as along with, together with, etc., because these are what we call coordinating conjunctions. They join equally ranked sentences together. So one feature out there always is that both the parts need to have similar tense. Okay, let's now come to question number 90. Reported speech or direct indirect speech. She said to her brother, am I doing the right thing? Now, as we discussed earlier, active passive voice, the tense remains the same. But what is reported speech? When a dialogue is converted into a form where it's reported to someone else without the double quotes. So over here, always the tense changes. And how does it change? when something is in present tense, it goes into the past. So the sentence is in simple present in the reported speech format, it gets converted to a simple past. If the sentence is in present continuous, it gets converted to simple present continuous, past continuous, sorry. So simple present becomes simple past, present continuous becomes past continuous. And when something is in the perfect tense, it gets converted again into the past form. So present perfect becomes past perfect. So whatever is in the present form gets converted into the past form. And when the sentence is in simple past, it gets converted to past perfect, so on and so forth. The tense is changing. That's what I need to keep in mind. So she said to her brother, am I doing the right thing? So now here the part within the dialogue is in present continuous. So after conversion, this part should get converted into past continuous. That's what we are looking for. All right. So the past within the dialogue is in present continuous. That gets converted into past continuous. So this am I doing should become was she doing. Let's see which option has that. She cautioned her brother whether he was doing the right thing. But here she's not cautioning her brother. She's asking whether what she did is right or wrong. Option number one looks like she's telling her brother that he's not doing the right thing. So one gets eliminated. She wondered if she is doing the right thing, but here is in the present tense. And also the brother part is missing. So 2 gets eliminated. She asked her brother whether she was doing the right thing. Yes. Now this is correct. So that she was doing the right thing, she's asked her brother about that. So this present continuous thing gets converted to past continuous. So 3 does seem to be fine. She questioned her brother if he was doing the right thing. But then this technically the meaning has changed. This he should have been she. Because she is not worried whether her brother is doing right or wrong. She's worried whether she was doing the right thing or not. That's coming out in option number 3. So 3 is definitely the right answer. I hope this is clear, guys. The only thing you have to remember in reported speech is the tense gets changed and the meaning needs to be the same. So whatever is in present becomes past and whatever is in past becomes past perfect. So simple past becomes past perfect, past continuous becomes past perfect continuous, so on and so forth. So whatever is past present becomes past and whatever is past becomes past perfect. And remember, when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about the tense of the dialogue and not the tense of the outside verb. All right. We're talking about the tense of the dialogue. So over here, the tense of the dialogue was present continuous. So that in the reported speech became past continuous, as in this case. So definitely option number 3. Now let's move on to question number 91. Now this is again the sentence divided into 4 parts. I have to mark the part that has an error. And luckily I don't have a no error option. So what we are definitely sure about is there's going to be an error. Let's check. One day a baker decided weighing the butter to see if he was getting a pound and found that he was not. But when I say decided, he is not yet weighed. He's going to weigh the butter. So the idea here is he decided that he wanted to weigh the butter to see whether he was getting the right weight. With that, he did it, he found that he was not getting the right weight. So when I'm saying decided, as if now the action hasn't happened, I'm still talking about the possibility of the action. Therefore, I can't say weighing, I have to say to weigh. That's the basic difference between infinitive and gerund. The infinitive is the to plus verb form. It's used to indicate the possibility, whereas gerund, which is verb plus ing, indicates the action itself. So because here the baker is still talking about the deciding part, I'll say one day a baker decided to weigh the butter to see if he was getting a pound and found that he was not. So my error definitely is in part number 2. One day a baker decided to weigh the butter. Option number 2. I hope this is clear, guys. This is basically covered in the verbs part, the infinitive versus gerund part. Good. 92 again, there is error spotting, but now I have an option number 4, no error. So the sentence could be correct also. I'll have to check. So page after page of Quran were read, and it gave great consolation to his mind. So there was a person who basically read the Quran, which is the holy book in Islam, and that gave him a lot of consolation or peace of mind. So page after page, that part is fine, of Quran. Now, firstly, as we know, whenever I have these things that, whenever I have a word that symbolizes a culture or a religion, a holy book, normally it always has the article the. So for example, I say the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Gita, the Quran, the Bible, the Iliad, the Odyssey when it comes to Greek mythology. So I have to say the Quran. That is definitely wrong. And apart from that, when I'm saying page after page, now the subject for were read is page after page. Now, as we know, there is a concept in English grammar called subject-verb agreement, which says that if the subject is singular, the associated verb becomes singular. The subject is plural, the associated verb becomes plural. So for example, I am singing, we are singing. So for plural subject, I use a plural verb. Singular subject, I use a singular verb. Here I'm saying page after page. So this is singular because the main verb over here is page after page. So keeping that in mind, if I check the verb is were, which is plural. So that has to be changed to was. Even that is wrong. So page after page of the Quran was read, and it gave great consolation to his mind. So definitely my answer is part number 2. There is an error, and there are 2 errors. The Quran I need to say, so there needs to be the before the word Quran, and then the word has to be converted to was. All right, so I have 2 errors in part number 2. That's my answer. Page after page of the Quran was read. Okay. Question number 93. He has given me a word and I have to find its antonym. So palatable, when I say something is palatable, it can be eaten or it's capable of digesting. So for example, I am someone who likes to eat food with less salt. So if I eat something that's very salty, I can't eat it because my taste buds are not capable of eating it. Then it becomes unpalatable for me. But if it has just the right amount of salt, then it is palatable for me. So anything that's palatable is capable of eating or capable of being eaten. So when I say redundant, the word redundant means extra. So that gets eliminated because that's something totally different. Okay, they'll have to make a small change. I can't say capable of eating because that would mean the person is capable of eating. I'll have to say capable of being eaten. When something has the capacity of being eaten, it's good enough to be eaten. So I'll not say capable of eating. I'll say capable of being eaten. Repulsive is something that pushes me away. So that's also can that be a possible answer in terms of food? Yes. So when something can be eaten, it is attractive, it's palatable. But when something is repulsive or unattractive, that means in terms of food, I don't feel like eating it. I push it away from me. So in terms of food, repulsive could be a possible answer. Unattractive. So option number 2 could be a possible answer. Appetizing and aperitif are similar to palatable. They are synonyms. When something is appetizing, it is creating hunger within me. When something is aperitif, again, it's creating hunger within me. So these 2 are similar to palatable. So they are eliminated. My right answer is option number 2. Something is palatable, it's attractive to be eaten, it's capable of being eaten. Something is repulsive in terms of food, I don't feel like eating it. So option number 2 becomes the right answer. Now, this is an example of phrase replacement. Just give me a minute. So sentence is given, a portion of it is underlined. I'm given 3 possible replacements. And if the sentence is correct, I can mark no improvement required. My friend always says that the plays written by Shakespeare are worth to be read. But now the problem is when I say worth, it's always worth an action and not worth a possibility. And as we saw earlier, infinitive is used with the possibility, gerund with the action. So I can't say worth to be read, I'll have to say worth reading, which is the ing form. So my friend always says that the plays written by Shakespeare are worth reading. I can't say worth to be read, I'll say worth reading. So it's definitely a problem in the question. So option 4 gets eliminated. Words to be read. So one gets eliminated. Written by Shakespeare, were worth to be read. Now again the same problem, 2 gets eliminated. My friend always says that the plays written by Shakespeare are worth reading. The correction that we also spoke about. So option number 3 becomes the right answer. All right, guys. Option number 3. Then let's move on to question number 95. I've been given the word pilferage. I have to find its appropriate synonym. Now, what does pilferage mean? Theft. When I am stealing something. Pilferage is nothing but theft. So let's see which option is its synonym. Compensation. When I'm given something in return for something that I've lost, it's called a compensation. But that's different. One gets eliminated. Umbrageous offense. So when something goes wrong, I'm really angry by it. It causes offense or umbrage within me. Now, can a theft cause umbrage? Absolutely, yes. But that's the cause. So pilferage or theft is the cause. Umbrage is the effect. It's not the direct meaning. There's a cause-effect relation. So 2 gets eliminated. Beverage is drink like tea, coffee. So tea, coffee, etc. is what we call beverage as well. So that's irrelevant. Larceny is the same as theft. Committing larceny is again committing a theft. So option number 4 becomes the right answer. Now over here, this was a tricky word, but if I know the meanings of the remaining words via elimination, I can find my answer. So compensation, beverage, of course, are straightforward words. They could be directly eliminated. But yes, I needed to know the meaning of either umbrage or larceny to be able to get my answer. One way, of course, could be the root umbra means shadow. So umbrage is something, therefore, that causes a shadow-like feeling within me, something that causes offense. So via that, I would know that umbrage is the effect of theft. So with that, also, I could eliminate 2 and choose 4 as my answer. But yes, this was a slightly tricky one. Okay, guys. And now, lastly, question numbers 96 to 100 are examples of what I call a close passage, which is when I get fill in the blanks within a paragraph. So as I can see out here, the para has around 5 lines. There are 96 to 100. And then I have accordingly options for each. So the trick is in a fill in the blank question, I just read that line and get the answer. In a closed passage, I have to first read the whole paragraph with the blanks to understand what is going on. And then I choose the option for each blank. Because it can happen that the clue for one blank is in the line that comes after it. So it makes sense to first read the whole paragraph. Let's do that. As Silicon Valley and tech companies dash, it stole some thunder from Wall Street as young people wanted to dash the confining suits and ties in favor of jeans and hoodies. Hot startups and jobs with big name companies like Twitter, Apple, Facebook, and Amazon offer intellectually challenging jobs, and the dash to receive stock and options that could earn a windfall dash workers who were in the right place at the dash time. So what we are trying to say out here is Silicon Valley and tech companies did something. They stole the thunder away from Wall Street. Wall Street is basically stock market. So young people, therefore, I think got jobs in these IT companies. So IT companies, because Silicon Valley, as you know, stands for the IT industry. So they got very challenging jobs, and they also got a lot of good money, because windfall basically means a lot of money, earning a fortune. So this basically seems to be a para that talks good about the Silicon Valley and the IT industry and whatever benefits were gained out of it. So keeping that in mind, let's now check each sentence. So as Silicon Valley and tech companies dash, it stole some of the thunder. Now we are talking about these companies doing really well, because of which the thunder went away from the stock market. So over here, I need an option about that means that these companies are doing well. So let's check the option winded. But when I say a company winded up or wound up, that means it lost money. All right. So winded up is losing money or closing down. That is the exact opposite of what I want out here. So option number 1 gets eliminated. As Silicon Valley and tech companies boomed. Now booming is doing well. So when I say companies are booming, business is booming, that means they are doing really well for themselves. So 2 can be a possible answer. Fabled is more of a fable, a myth. So 3 gets eliminated. Doomed again is closing down. So 4 also gets eliminated. So in the first blank, in the 96th blank, my answer has to be option number 2. As Silicon Valley and tech companies boomed. Now let's go to the next question. As Silicon Valley and tech companies boomed, it stole some of the thunder from Wall Street, as young people wanted to dash the confining suits and ties in favor of jeans and hoodies. So Wall Street stands for suits and ties. The IT companies stand for jeans and hoodies. So young people wanted to leave the suits and ties and go for jeans and hoodies, the casual work culture that was present in the IT companies. So I need a word for blank number 97 that talks about leave. They wanted to leave the suits and they go for the more casual dress. So let's check the options. They wanted to ditch. Now to ditch is again to leave. Like when you ditch someone, you are leaving that person in a relationship. So option number 1 could be a possible answer. They wanted to inform the suits and ties. No, that would not work out. They wanted to model. No, I'm not talking about modeling. They wanted to perform the suits and ties. Again, that is stupid. So my answer has to be option number 1. So as the Silicon Valley and tech companies boomed, it stole some of the thunder from Wall Street, as young people wanted to ditch the confining suits and ties. Let's then move on. In favor of jeans and hoodies, hot startups and jobs with big name companies like Twitter, Apple, Facebook, and Amazon offer intellectually challenging jobs, and they dash to receive stocks and options that earn a windfall. Now the good thing about IT companies is that they offer stocks and options. They give you shares within the company that earn you a lot of money. So in the 98th blank, I need a word like opportunity. These companies gave them the chance or the opportunity to receive the stock and the options. So let's see if we have an option that talks about chance or opportunity. Option 1, flow, but flow wouldn't work out. That gets eliminated. Local, no, we are not talking about local and foreign. But option 3 mentions chance. Yes, that would be the best answer. Play, the problem with play is I would need the word with after it. They could give them, again, the play with would not work out there properly. So 4 also gets eliminated. My answer has to be 3. So big name companies like Twitter and Apple, Facebook and Amazon offer intellectually challenging jobs and the chance to receive stock and options. Okay, that could earn a windfall, dash workers. So I would need a word like for workers, because who's earning these windfall or fortune? The workers are earning it. So earn a windfall for workers. Let's see if I have an option like that. From, no. With, no. Buy, no, definitely for. So option number 4. Earn a windfall for workers. This was very straightforward. And earn a windfall for workers who were in the right place. Now the phrases being at the right place at the right time. So when I'm in the right place at the right time, it means I was exactly in the correct spot to get something in return. So I need the word right, which is definitely there in option number 4. Preparing is wrong. Violent is wrong. Predictable is wrong. The phrase is at the right place at the right time. I'll just repeat the answers again. So for 96, it was boomed. As Silicon Valley and tech companies boomed, it stole some of the thunder from Wall Street as young people wanted to ditch. Option number 1. Young people wanted to ditch or leave the confining suits and ties in favor of jeans and hoodies. Hot startups and jobs with big name companies like Twitter, Apple, Facebook, and Amazon offer intellectually challenging jobs and the chance or the opportunity. So option number 3, the chance and the opportunity to receive stock and options that could earn a windfall for. Option number 4, a windfall for workers who were in the right place at the right time. Option number 4. Being at the right place at the right time means I was in the right spot to get something in return. So closed tests generally are very easy. The options are not very difficult. It's more of logically figuring out what would come in that blank. So I would suggest always do closed passage questions. The advantage is, you get a single set with 5 questions or 10 questions. And even if it happens that you may not know 1 or 2, you'll definitely know the remaining ones. It's very rare that all the 5 or 10 questions in a closed test are difficult. So if you're not sure about 2 or 3, at least you can do the remaining ones and leave the rest. So even if say out of 5 you get 3 correct and you're leaving the remaining 2, or out of 10 you get 7 or 8 right and you leave the remaining 2, that's again a good bonus for your total marks. So you should definitely always try a closed passage. All right, guys. So I've just given the answers for the questions over here again, 76 to 100. So in case you have missed out, you can refer to the question, the answer map over here also and cross check whether you got it right or wrong. These are the solutions for question number 76 to 100. All right, the ones that we just discussed, question number 76 to 100. All right, guys, with this, then we are done with this particular topic. I hope whatever we discussed came in handy. You were able to understand. Wherever you are not able to, you can just pause the video again here, or you can play it once again, hear carefully the explanation, and then see whether you got it right or wrong. And with this, guys, I come to an end to this discussion. Thank you so much and all the best for your exams. I hope whatever we did today would come in handy for you. All the best. Thank you so much.